I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. In remarks on the Senate floor Thursday, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for bipartisan support to send more aid to Ukraine. Earlier, President Biden made an additional request for $33 billion in aid. Schumer called this money essential as Russia's war rages on for its third month. Here's the New York Senator now.
So, Mr. President, it's been a good week in the Senate because two important things happened. First, we finally confirmed every single U.S. attorney that had been blocked by Republicans, making the country safer. And today, the Senate is taking the next big step towards enacting major legislation to create jobs, bring back American manufacturing, strengthen supply chains, and unleash another generation of American innovation. Later today, we will vote to enter into a conference committee with the House on the competition and innovation legislation. And we will work with the House to finalize this jobs competitiveness bill. We will also vote next Tuesday and Wednesday on 28 motions to instruct, 8 from Democrats, 20 from Republicans. There's still a lot of work to do before we send this competitive jobs bill to the President's desk. Not everyone is going to get what they want, but even so, this bill is going to be just what the doctor ordered: to boost our economy, bring back manufacturing jobs, and lower costs for American families. Let me say it again. Today, the Senate is moving forward on legislation that is awash with good news for American jobs, American families, American innovation. It's great news for American families who want to see lower costs on daily essentials. It's great news for workers who want to see good-paying manufacturing jobs brought back from overseas. It's great news for our businesses, especially our chip manufacturers, who need help strengthening supply chains. And it's great news for our innovators, scientists, workers at universities, and creators who will help us create new technologies and generate the next wave of good-paying jobs in this century. Now, we Democrats have bent over backwards to get this bill done. We allowed a very long list of motions to instruct. In fact, it's the most votes on motions to instruct of any bill in decades. And it's a sign of both the immense goodwill we have shown to our Republican colleagues and the fact that many members on both sides of the aisle have a stake in seeing the bill finalized. Frankly, it shouldn't have taken us so long to get to this point, forming a conference on the USICA legislation. But once again, it's good news that the bill is moving forward. I thank my colleagues from both sides of the aisle who worked in good faith to help us reach this point. And I give a particular shout out to Chairman Cantwell, as well as Senator Young, my co-sponsor on this legislation. As I also mentioned, we got more good news yesterday after the Senate confirmed every single U.S. attorney that had been blocked by a handful of Republican obstructionists. It was about time that Republicans finally relented on their dangerous and indefensible blockade on federal prosecutors. I don't think it's ever happened before. These U.S. attorneys are vital to keeping Americans safe. They are not political positions. They are entirely dedicated to preserving public safety and protecting our communities. It was totally reckless for a very small band of Republicans who claim to care about public safety to have halted these federal prosecutors for so long just to score political points. Still, after months of unnecessary delay, Americans in Georgia and Michigan and Ohio and Nevada and Minnesota and New Hampshire and other states can breathe a sigh of relief that the Republican blockade on federal prosecutors has broken. Now, there are many other very important and uncontroversial nominees that are still being blocked by a handful of Senate Republicans. Many of them deal with national security. Many of them would help our country find ways to lower costs. Republicans should drop their holds on these uncontroversial nominees at once, or else we're going to have to keep members here in the chamber for the late night and weekend sessions to get them through. And finally, I want to say it was egregious for Republicans to similarly prevent the nomination of Lisa Cook to go through this week. Make no mistake, we're going to get her confirmed through the Senate as soon as we can. Lisa Cook is a historic and highly qualified nominee. She'll be the first black woman ever to sit on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Her family literally fought segregation growing up in rural Georgia, and despite personally facing immense discrimination, she is now professor of economics at Michigan State, a former advisor to President Obama's Council of Economic Advisors, and is on the Chicago Fed Board's Academic Advisory Board. A historic Federal Reserve nominee who accomplished as much as Lisa Cook deserves far, far better treatment than what Republicans have shown her. But nevertheless, the Senate will vote on her confirmation as soon as we can. On Ukraine and COVID. This morning, Mr. President, President Biden has sent Congress his request for $33 billion in emergency funding to support the Ukrainian people. This is a big but critically necessary package. I will make sure the Senate prioritizes this important funding package so we can get help to the Ukrainian people fast, ASAP. It was also good to see the President call for legislation to get tough on Russian oligarchs. This must be done, and I will ask the Senate to arm the federal government with the tools necessary to put further pressure on Russian oligarchs and Putin's cronies. I will expect we will include authorities that expand existing forfeiture laws to achieve that end. We need to go after these crooked oligarchs who've gotten rich off Putin's regime. The war in Ukraine is on their hands, and the federal government should be fully empowered to make sure their moment of reckoning comes. 2 months into the war, Putin's hopes for a quick takeover of Ukraine have all but extinguished, thanks to the bravery of the Ukrainian people, and in addition to the aid that the United States has provided in the forms of javelins, stingers, armed carriers, tanks, and so many other critical weapons. This is a fight against democracy. This is a fight of democracy against authoritarianism. So every penny we approve for Ukraine is money well spent. And the fight's far from over. We can't stop now. We must make sure that the Ukrainian people will continue to have the help they need for as long as they need it. The Senate must also work on a bipartisan way to pass another round of time-sensitive COVID funding. On both Ukraine funding and COVID funding, Republican obstruction will not serve the American people. The administration has made clear it needs more COVID money right now in order to secure the next round of vaccine doses, testing, and the new life-saving therapeutics, which are so good that if you get a positive test and you take the therapeutic, the likelihood of getting any kind of COVID, particularly a more severe kind, is minimal. These are amazing drugs. But what's happening? Since we don't have the money to purchase them, other countries are going to the companies, American innovation that has made them, and God forbid there's another variant, we may not have them. All because of delay and political games on the other side stopping the COVID legislation. The administration has made clear they need this money right now. And as I said, if we wait, other nations are going to beat us to the punch, and America might be left waiting for months before more supplies are made. This is a risk. It may be a few months away, but very real. It's a risk that the American people simply can't afford. Of course, there's a very simple way we can prevent another closure of schools and churches and businesses. Republicans should work with Democrats to pass another COVID funding bill ASAP. No political games, no poison pills, no dithering about. In short, we must get both Ukrainian emergency relief and COVID funding relief done quickly. Finally, on gas prices and the FTC. Earlier this morning, I joined with Senator Cantwell, Speaker Pelosi, and Chairman Pallone to detail some of the ways Democrats are helping Americans ease the pain they're feeling at the pump. We are focused like a laser on developing and passing legislation to lower costs and improve Americans' daily lives. Nowhere else are Americans feeling the hurt as viscerally and as repeatedly as they are when they fill up their tank at the gas station. We are thus working on legislation to fight bad actors who may be using COVID and Ukraine to jack up prices on consumers to pad their profits. And I intend to put that legislation on the floor. Oil is basically an oligopoly. A few small companies dominate. And that means supply and demand doesn't work. That means, for instance, that the biggest 25 energy giants in America reported a breathtaking $205 billion in profits in 2021. If there was real competition, they'd fight to get the price lower to get some market share. But with very little competition, they just keep the price up and the consumer is strangled. One executive even bragged to shareholders about the benefits of, quote, capturing value from high prices. And what are the oil companies doing with all this cash? They're helping their CEOs and their biggest, wealthiest shareholders. The amount of buybacks is skyrocketing. Buybacks do no good. They don't help the worker, they don't help the consumer, they don't even produce more oil. For those who believe that's the way to go, they simply line the pockets of the CEOs and the biggest shareholders, and then they can go back and say, I got the stock price up. But not the way you're supposed to in capitalism, by making your company sell more, be more productive, but rather by this horrible buyback, which has become endemic in corporate America and is very harmful to America. And we're seeing it in oil more than anywhere else right now. So it's high time. We need somebody to look under the hood, see what the problem is, and give them the tools to fix it. That somebody is the FTC. It's high time for the FTC to roll up their sleeves and drill down on what's going on at the big oil companies. Very soon, the Senate will confirm Alvaro Bedoya and return the FTC to full strength. But Congress needs to do more to beef up the FTC's ability to crack down on potential gas price manipulation and price gouging, so we will work on legislation to that end, among other proposals to lower gas prices. Once again, as we reach the end of this week, let me say I intend to put legislation that eases the pain of gas prices on the floor for a vote when it is ready. I yield the floor.